I'm Linda, and this is Beautiful Thrift Homemaking, where we're reading through a vintage cookbook from 1917. It's called 1,000 Ways to Please a Husband, and we are in the month of May. At the very end of the book, we have about 3 more episodes. May starts with a poem, as each chapter did. Scrub and polish, sweep and clean, fling your windows wide. See, the trees are clad in green. Coax the spring inside. Home, be shining fair today for the guest whose name is May. And it is time for spring cleaning. And so we have Bettina opening wide her windows, and she's got her wrap apron over her to protect her clothing and her little cap to protect her hair from the dust as she cleans. And especially because she'll be beating her rugs, and that is a very dusty job. And there she is again in another picture. You can see her rugs hanging up. And so we'll read about her spring cleaning, and we'll see her meal planning and her recipes also. In House Cleaning Time, Chapter 143. Goodness gracious, Ruth, said Bettina. Surely it can't be 5:30 already. Yes, it is, Bettina. Exactly that, said Ruth, glancing at her tiny wristwatch. But Bob won't be home till 6, will he? No, but I want to have dinner ready when he arrives. You see, as I told you before, I simply shouldn't have gone to Mary's this afternoon. My curtains are down and my rugs are up, and my house isn't an attractive place for a man to come home to say the least. And then to come straight from a party and give Bob a pickup lunch instead of a full meal will be the last straw. What had happened? What had you planned for lunch? Well, I have some soup all made, ready to reheat. Then I think I'll have banana salad, tea, and hot baking powder biscuits. Delicious, said Ruth, with a teddified grin. I believe I'll invite myself to stay. Good. You can make the salad while I'm mixing the biscuits. I also have some chocolate cookies, and I'll open a jar of canned peaches. And I'll be so bright and scintillating that old Bobby won't even miss the curtains and the rugs. That night, Bettina served Bettina soup, oyster crackers, Bettina salad, hot biscuits, canned peaches, chocolate cookies, and tea. And in this chapter, we have her recipes for her soup, her salad, which is the banana salad. Imagine that. Let's see what that is. And the baking powder biscuits. Chapter 144, Mrs. Dixon Happens In. And if you haven't been with me before, I do discuss the recipes in depth after I read the chapters. I must hurry home to get dinner, said Mrs. Dixon. See, Bettina, I've been to the market. Isn't this a big, fine cantaloupe? I have 2 more just like it. Frank is very fond of them, but, she added ruefully, I like them cold, of course, and after I've fixed them and had them in the refrigerator a while, everything in it, milk, butter, and eggs, has that cantaloupe taste. I'll tell you how you can prevent that, Charlotte. Of course, they must be very cold when served, but I never prepare them till just before the meal. I put them in the icebox whole in a paper sack, taking care that the mouth of the sack is closed. They become very cold that way, and at the same time can't affect the other food. I'm so glad you told me that, Bettina. I've learned a great many things from you, haven't I? Oh yes, another thing puzzles me. I like chipped ice served in and with the cantaloupe, and I don't own any tool for preparing the ice. I do fix it somehow, of course, but I've wondered how other people manage. Well, there are regular ice shavers, you know, but I haven't one either. I keep a salt sack that I use for that purpose whenever I need just a little chipped ice. It isn't hard to break off a piece small enough to go in a salt sack. In fact, you usually have one in your icebox already. I put it in the sack and break it fine with the flat side of a small hatchet. Well, I've learned something more, and I'll use the knowledge tomorrow evening. I must be going now. How lovely those asters are on your dinner table. They seem to prophesy an especially good meal. Do tell me what you are going to have. I never can think of a variety Simple meat dishes are my bugbear. We have veal chops for tonight, just plain veal chops and boiled new potatoes and carrots with bechamel sauce. Gracious me, here comes Bob. I must hurry along, or Frank will be home before I am. Bettina's dinner that evening was made up of veal chops, new potatoes, carrots. Sorry, I'm looking at the pronunciation for that, which I had to look up because I never do hear that word. Bechamel, the bechamel sauce, bread, butter, peaches, custard sauce. And we have the recipe for the veal chops and also the creamed carrots and the bechamel sauce. All right, so we'll go over those in a jiffy. Chapter 145, Engagement Presents. Ruth has had some of the loveliest engagement presents, said Bettina to Bob across the dinner table, and some are so practical and sensible. Did you see her this afternoon? Yes, and we walked over to the new house. She has had Fred put up a shelf in the kitchen for her cookbooks and recipe card box, and she finds that she really has quite a library. And the various engagement gifts are all put away. In fact, the bungalow is nearly ready for use. I've told Ruth that she might write a magazine article on engagement presents using her own for illustrations. What does she have? Well, a dear old aunt of Bob's presented her with some wonderful kitchen scales and they are an aid to economy. Then it seems to me that every friend who has some favorite kitchen devices has given one to her. She has egg beaters, waffle irons, cream whippers, silver polishers, cases for linen and silver, oh, everything you can think of. What did you give her? The cards and the card box for her indexed recipes. I included many of my own recipes, you know. That is to be my own particular engagement gift for all my friends. That night, Bettina served salmon loaf with salmon sauce, baked potatoes, bread, butter, marble pudding, whipped cream, and iced tea. And we'll see the recipes for the salmon loaf, the salmon sauce, and the baked marble pudding. Chapter 146, with house cleaning over. Broiled steak and French fried potatoes. Whew, said Bob, strolling into Bettina's shining kitchen. Why so festive? Because I've just finished house cleaning, Bob, and I want to celebrate. Doesn't everything look splendid? Well, it looked good to me before, but now that I think of it, I believe there is an extra shine on things. What makes that nickel there look so bright and silvery? I cleaned it with a damp cloth dipped in powdered borax. That always makes nickel bright and clean. I might have done that for you, Betty. Why didn't you suggest it to me? Oh, this house is so small and dear that I enjoyed every minute of my house cleaning, and I didn't want to bother you with it at all. Well, I'll help now with dinner. What can I do? Drinking some lemon balm tea. Will you cut the bread, dear? There's the steel bread knife. Doesn't it look bright and shiny, too? I cleaned all my steel knives by dipping them into the earth in a flower pot I keep filled for that purpose. Well, I think dinner is ready now, Bob. For dinner they had broiled steak, French fried potatoes, stuffed onions, bread, currant jelly, orange tapioca, whipped cream, and coffee. And we are shared the recipes for the stuffed onions, the orange tapioca, and the whipped cream for it. Chapter 147, Spring Marketing. I've been to the market, Bettina, said Charlotte, and I thought I'd stop here just a moment to rest. Come in, said Bettina, and set that heavy basket down. Why didn't you leave it for Frank to bring? Because I needed the things for dinner. What did you get? Oh, the same old fresh vegetables, said Charlotte wearily. A month ago they seemed so wonderful. Strawberries, asparagus, new potatoes and all. But there are no new ways to cook them. One day I cream the asparagus and the next day I serve it on toast. Do you ever make asparagus salad? Asked Bettina. We are very fond of it. Cold cooked asparagus is good with any kind of salad dressing, but we like best a very simple kind that I often make: oil and lemon juice and cheese. Cheese, echoed Charlotte in surprise. Yes, cottage cheese and Roquefort cheese are equally good. And Charlotte, if you want some delicious strawberry desserts. Oh, I do. We're so tired of shortcake and plain strawberries. I know several good strawberry dishes. Come, let me show you one that I made today. Bettina's dinner consisted of asparagus salad dressing, and strawberry tapioca. Okay, so those were our chapters, and now we'll have our discussion, look at those recipes, dive into those meal plans. So the first chapter, 143, was in house cleaning time. So it's spring cleaning for Bettina in her little bungalow. It's probably a craftsman style bungalow. And she is making sure that everything is cleaned after the long winter. She has been washing her curtains, which she said her curtains are down and her rugs are up. So she's taken her curtains down and washed them. They're probably on the line outside drying. And then she's taken the rugs up and taken them outside and beaten them. And she says the rugs are up because they're hanging up outdoors after being beaten. I noticed that carpet beaters are still being sold, so I was interested to find that out. And they look kind of like a fly swatter with larger openings. So they have openings that are quite large, and it's a flat it's a flat thing like this with a handle on it, like a fly swatter, and you beat at the rug, and you get all that dust to start flying out. And that was before the era of vacuum cleaners, of course, and then people who don't use electricity now apparently still using rug beaters because they are still sold by some of the supply houses for people who are off-grid and not using electricity and so forth. So she's doing that deep spring cleaning, and she talked about this banana salad, which I thought was fascinating because I've never heard of using banana in a salad except a fruit salad. And there was one other thing, though, I wanted to mention, that Ruth said delicious with a teddified grin. And I thought, what could be a teddified grin? And I looked that up, and apparently it's referring to Theodore or Teddy Roosevelt, who had been president earlier, and he was still in the public eye at this time. And you know, he did have a grin, but another thing is that he was responsible for what we call teddy bears today. And I don't know if you know that cute story, but the story goes that he was on a hunting trip in Mississippi, and he did not he did not shoot anything. And he was an avid sportsman and horseback rider and outdoorsman. And so hunting was not new to him, but he did not find a bear that day. But his aides had located a black bear, and they tied it to a tree and told him, here's the bear. And they expected him to shoot it and then claim, oh, look at me, the great hunter, I've got a bear, I got my bear. But he said, no, that's not good sportsmanship, and they had to let that bear go. So when the story got out about Teddy Roosevelt and the black bear, a manufacturer decided to make little toy bears and call them teddy bears, or call them Teddy's bear. And then Teddy's bear became teddy bears, and the rest is history. And you know all about teddy bears and all the different variations they come in now. So she had a grin like a, I don't know if she had the grin like the little bear, like that, or if it was the smile that Teddy Roosevelt was known for, which he had a big grin. So one of those things. I just thought that was a little awkward and thought I better check on that. So let's look at that banana salad and those other items. Okay, her soup. Her soup had rice in it and a tomato. It looks like it's mostly just a stock soup. She used 3 cups of meat stock left over, half a cup of cooked rice, a half a cup of tomato pulp, 1 tablespoon of sliced onion, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, and 3 celery leaves. Add the rice, tomato pulp, onion, salt, paprika, and celery leaves to the meat stock. Cook for 20 minutes over a slow fire. Strain and serve in hot soup dishes or bouillon cups. Okay, so that's just a simple soup. And so it's good she's going to have some biscuits to go with that. Now the banana salad, here we go, what we've all been waiting to hear about. For 3 portions, would be made with 2 bananas, 1/2 cup of shelled peanuts broken in halves, 1/2 cup celery cut small, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, 1/2 cup salad dressing, and 3 lettuce leaves. Cut the bananas in 1/4 inch cubes. Add the lemon juice and mix thoroughly. And I suppose that's to keep the freshly cut fruit from darkening in the air. Add the peanuts, celery, salt, and paprika. Add the salad dressing and mix it lightly with a silver fork. Pile on the lettuce leaves, which have been washed and arranged on a serving dish. Serve immediately. Again, you don't want that to become discolored and look off or unfresh. So I don't know, peanuts, banana, that goes together, but I've never heard of celery with banana. Think about that, and salad dressing on bananas. So that's something different. And then her baking powder recipe, baking powder biscuit recipe, is for 8 biscuits with 1.5 cups flour, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, which is 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1.5 tablespoons of lard, and 1/2 cup milk. Mix and sift well the flour, baking powder, and salt. Cut in the lard with a knife until the consistency of cornmeal. Add the milk slowly, stirring with a knife until the dough is soft enough to be handled without sticking to the fingers. Place on a floured board, pat into shape with the hands to a thickness of 2/3 of an inch. Cut with a biscuit cutter. Place the biscuits side by side in a tin pan. Bake in a moderate oven 15 minutes. Serve on a folded napkin. Okay. So our next chapter then is we have the smell of cantaloupe interfering with the other foods in the refrigerator, and Mrs. Dixon is just not happy about that. So Bettina gives her the solution, putting it in a paper sack closed up, getting it nice and chilled, and then slicing it up for the meal just as you were going to serve it. All right, now this chapter was really about ice. So we're in 1917 here. Ice was a lot different back then. It came in big blocks and you put it in the ice box to keep the refrigerator cold. And that's how you got the ice box was insulated very well, and your food was chilled because of that ice block being in there. But sometimes you would want to get some of that ice out of there and use it for your to go with your foods. And I've never heard of serving cantaloupe with chipped ice in it, but that's what Mrs. Dixon wanted to do, and she wondered about cutting that ice off the block. Now, I've not seen a hand operated ice shaver, but I do have an old-fashioned ice pick, which, by the way, just a good tip for you is you could take a cork from a wine bottle type of thing, and use it to protect the point and protect people from getting poked with the point, or children if they were to grab it out of the drawer. But you, of course, should keep something like this well out of way of children. But this is an antique, and it says there is a difference in ice. City Products Corporation. Go modern. Use City Ice Cubes. 24-hour service every day at our vending stations. And they show the little block ice house, which you used to be able to go to in your community and retrieve some ice. And there are also times when ice was delivered to people's homes regularly. So things have changed in the ice world. Before I got that antique one, I used to just use an awl. This is just a craftsman awl for working in a wood shop, and it really has the same kind of point on it, pretty much as a ice pick does. So they're almost identical, aren't they? So there we have two options for chipping off ice. That I could show you. And Bettina would bring out her little hatchet. That was really funny. And then we have the bechamel sauce, the classic French sauce. We talked about those in chapter 74. Bettina has asters on the dinner table, and Mrs. Dixon comments on them. And you know, I looked those up because I was really a little surprised, because usually things are quite seasonal in this book. And asters are perennials, but they bloom in the late summer and fall. And therefore, I'm not quite sure how she has them in May. But I went to see what I had in May, and I don't have a flower garden per se, not at all. But along a fence, there's some calendula that self-seeds, self-sows, and so it's come up again, and they go over the winter and are the only flower I have that's blooming in the winter time. And then I did have some snapdragons that, again, it's kind of like a weed. Oh, that one fell off. It's kind of like a weed. It just wants to keep coming up without any care whatsoever. Then along a fence we had some of this honeysuckle, Japanese honeysuckle growing. And it's viney. It likes to grab a hold and grow along the fence. Was kind of fun is that I started this honeysuckle. Down the road we had a bunch of it on a fence at a house that was abandoned, and I took a clipping of it, which just a little piece like this, and I put it in a jar of water like this and let it stay, and it grew roots, and then I planted it along our fence, and now we have a big bunch of it and it's reaching out further and further. And then the only other thing I found some wild Oregon grape growing outside in bloom right now, and thought that would look interesting in here. It's got a holly-like leaf with the spikes on it. So lemon balm, which I make my tea from, is this one here. I can maybe untangle it from the, so I'll pull it out a little bit. So this one here, the lemon balm, it's nice, soft, fresh young leaves, and it's in the mint family, and it grows wild. So I made a little wildflower bouquet. I don't know what you think about that, but I think it's kind of sweet. And that is just with stuff that I have out there that none of it is intentional or cared for. So you can make a lovely bouquet by going out and finding greenery around the outside of wherever you live and trying that. And if I did notice while I was out there gathering that for you, I did notice that our plums are ripening. So I thought that you could also put together a bowl of fresh fruit as a centerpiece. That the color is absolutely lovely, isn't it? So you could put together a bowl of fresh fruit also as a centerpiece for your table. And if asters are not available for you, then there's other things out there, I'm sure. And that's what I found. All right, so now we move on to chapter 145. And Ruth has been engaged for quite a while, and she's going to marry Fred. They've been building a house, which would probably be a craftsman home. And Fred was over there getting the house ready. So Bettina and Ruth walked down to the house, and Bettina was able to see that Fred had put up a shelf in Ruth's new kitchen for her to hold her cookbooks, and that she had so many now, and her little recipe card box, which I had shown before, some type of little box that, now I have all kinds of things in here. I shouldn't probably display the mess in the front of little tiny things, but I will say that I do have an alphabetized index in here. And so Ruth likes her indexed recipe cards, and they probably are using a small index card like this one to write the recipes on and put them in there and keep them for whenever they need them. They're at hand. Today, of course, we have digital means of storing recipes, and some of you use those, and some of us use every kind of way and then some. And then we have cookbooks. By the way, if you don't have a cookbook and you'd like to have one, they actually make pretty fun reading. I mean, this one was so surprising, wasn't it, to actually have a storyline in it? It was like a novel and a cookbook all at once. And we followed 1 year in the life of a newlywed, and that was really fun. So there are so many cookbooks available in thrift stores and used bookstores, library book sales, and so forth, if you wanted to start collecting any. But do be careful on that. You don't want to overdo it. All right, so she talked about the gifts, the engagement gifts that Ruth was being given, favorite types of kitchen utensils and small appliances, such as a waffle iron, and then cream whippers and things like that. Kitchen scale, a kitchen scale. Now, Bettina noted that that is an aid to economy. And I would like to point out that anytime you do measure your ingredients when you're cooking or baking, you're going to save, because when we just pour or estimate, we tend to use more than if we were measuring. So that's something to keep in mind. And then I was going to talk to you about cases for linen and silver. So as you know, now this is not pure silver, this is just silver plate. So it's inexpensive. I got this at a thrift store. It's a little ladle. And it's cute, but it's kind of blackened, isn't it? And you could see, like, compared to my earrings that are more bright. So silver, when exposed to the air, it gets tarnished and becomes blackened. So there are special bags that you can store your silver in. And in that day, she maybe had a nice set of silverware, forks and spoons and such, with either a silver plate over them, or richer people would have solid silver utensils. So you need to keep that from tarnishing, and also you don't want to bang it around, because silver is a soft metal and it scratches easily, and so if it's piled up, then the one thing is going to scratch the next thing, and so forth. So it's kept in boxes with a lining in them. And then linen is kept in cases that are usually cotton, and that is to keep the dust off of it and keep out pests, and also just to keep it clean from other things coming in contact with it when it's in storage. All right, so linen would be like tablecloths and cloth napkins and things like that. All right, chapter 146, we have spring cleaning. Oh, wait, I have to do the recipes for that, don't I? 145. What are the recipes? They are, and the menu, salmon loaf and salmon sauce, baked potatoes, bread and butter, marble pudding, whipped cream, and iced tea. Salmon loaf is made with for 2 portions with 2/3 a cup of flaked canned salmon, 1/3 cup of cracker crumbs, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, 1 egg, and 1/3 a cup milk. Flake the salmon apart with a silver fork. There's that silver fork again. Add the crumbs, salt, and paprika. Beat the egg and milk. Beat the egg and add the milk. Add to the first mixture. Place in a well-buttered mold and bake in a moderate oven for 25 minutes. Allow to stand 3 minutes, remove from the mold, and place on a warmed platter. Pour salmon sauce around the loaf and serve at once. Now, in 1917, as we've learned throughout this book, foods cooked in molds was a very popular way to cook them. All right, so salmon sauce for just 2 portions is made with 3 tablespoons flour, 2 tablespoons butter, 1/4 a cup of liquor from the salmon. And I have pointed this out before because she did say this once before. Liquor meaning the liquid. And then 2/3 cup milk. 1 egg, hard cooked and chopped fine. 1/2 teaspoon salt. 1 tablespoon pickle, chopped fine. 1/2 teaspoon chopped parsley. And 1/4 teaspoon paprika. Now see there how frugal Bettina is to chop up 1/2 of a teaspoon of parsley. I am the kind of person who would just choose to leave it out. If I was only needing to get that small of an amount, I would kind of feel like it was not worth it. But that's the wrong attitude to take. If it says it takes parsley in the recipe, then it probably tastes best with it in there. Of course, you could experiment and see if it's missed. But melt the butter, add the salmon liquor, add the flour, salt, and paprika, mix well. Add the milk and cook 2 minutes. Add the egg, pickle, and parsley, mix well, and pour around the loaf. Okay, so you've got that salmon sauce on there now to moisturize your salmon. And let's look at this baked marble pudding. 1 cup flour, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon cinnamon, 1/8 teaspoon salt, 1/2 cup sugar, 1 egg, 2 tablespoons melted butter, 1/4 cup water, 1/2 teaspoon vanilla, 1/2 square of chocolate melted. Mix and sift the sugar, flour, salt, baking powder, and cinnamon, so the dry ingredients are mixed and sifted together. Add the egg yolk, water, and vanilla. Beat 1 minute. Add the egg white, stiffly beaten. Mix well. Add the butter, melted. Divide the mixture and to half add the melted chocolate. So this is how you're getting that marbled effect. So divide the mixture and to half add the melted chocolate. Prepare a loaf cake pan or a small round tin with waxed paper. Fill it with both mixtures, first placing it in a tablespoon of the plain mixture, then a tablespoon of the chocolate mixture, then the plain until all is used and the pudding has a marbled appearance. Bake 30 minutes in a moderate oven. Serve warm with whipped cream. All right. Next we had chapter 146 with house cleaning over. So Bob was noticing the polished nickel, which I was wondering what in the kitchen would be made with nickel. It was probably a coating, a plating of nickel, and it could have been the trim on the appliances. It could have been the latches on the cupboards, or the outside of the waffle iron, or the faucets, because often before chrome and stainless steel came out, polished nickel would have been, nickel would have been the plating used to give that shiny effect, but apparently it gets dull, and that's why it was replaced. And so she needs to polish that, and so she used a little borax and a soft cloth to polish that, a wet cloth, a damp cloth with borax on it to polish the nickel. All right. And she talked about her steel knives needing polishing. And I'm so grateful that we have stainless steel knives today because we don't have, they are carefree. And it was the funniest thing in this book, just about, for her to say, I cleaned all my steel knives by dipping them into the earth in a flower pot I keep filled for that purpose. Okay, so there you have it. Now, the recipes here um, for the stuffed onions and the tapioca pudding dessert. Let's see. It doesn't say pudding, but it does say orange tapioca. So let's start with the stuffed onions. For 2 portions, you'll take 2 large Spanish onions in 3 tablespoons of soft breadcrumbs, 1 teaspoon of egg, 1/2 teaspoon chopped parsley, 1/2 tablespoon, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 2 teaspoons melted butter, 1/2 teaspoon celery salt, 1/4 cup of milk. Cook the whole onions in boiling water until tender, but not broken. When the fork pierces them easily, drain off the water and rinse in cold water. This makes them firm for stuffing. Have you ever stuffed an onion? Here's what you do. Remove the centers carefully. Add the removed portion, chopped fine, to the crumbs, egg, parsley, salt, butter, and celery salt. Mix thoroughly. Fill the holes with the mixture. Place the onions in a small pan, sprinkle the salt over the onion, and pour it over it the milk. Bake in a moderate oven for 20 minutes. Wow, that sounds interesting to me. I think I'd like to try that sometime. Next, we have the dessert, which is orange tapioca for 2 portions. 4 tablespoons orange juice, 2 teaspoons lemon juice, 5 tablespoons sugar, 2/3 cup boiling water, 2 tablespoons powdered tapioca, 1/4 teaspoon salt, and 1 whole orange. Okay, so this is how you make this. Stir the tapioca powder into the orange and lemon juice. Add the sugar and salt. Let it stand for 3 minutes while boiling the water. Then add the water. Place directly over the fire. Stir constantly and cook until thick, about 3 minutes. Then peel the orange and break it apart into sections. Line a glass serving dish with it and pour the tapioca over the sections. Serve cold with the whipped cream. There's another recipe I think I'd like to see what that's like. And here's the whipped cream. It's special for that dessert. 1/3 cup thick cream, 2 tablespoons sugar, 1/2 a teaspoon lemon extract, and 1/2 a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Some of her recipes have that lemon and vanilla extract both in them, and I don't know. I find that a little bit incompatible. Place the cream in a round bottom chilled bowl. Beat until thick and fluffy. Add the sugar, lemon, and vanilla. Mix well. Pile lightly on the orange tapioca and serve very cold. Nice. Okay. So I did some research on tapioca because we're going to go into the next chapter and come upon it again. So we'll talk about that in detail. The next chapter is about the spring marketing. And so we have Charlotte, Mrs. Dixon, has come from the market and stopped in with her basket of produce. And I love that they used their own baskets to carry home their produce, and they walked to the store and back home. And so she stops in for a rest and asks about making some variations for asparagus. And Bettina tells her how to make a cold asparagus salad and then how to also make another strawberry dessert. So the asparagus salad is made with 18 stalks of asparagus, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 3 cups of water, and 3 pieces of lettuce. Wash the asparagus and cut it in 6-inch pieces. Cook for 10 minutes in boiling salted water, longer if necessary. Rinse with cold water, handling carefully because it'll be delicate. Arrange 6 stalks on each piece of lettuce and serve with salad dressing. Okay, and the salad dressing is called asparagus salad dressing, and for 3 portions. So they have their one guest tonight with them. 4 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, and 1 tablespoon of cottage cheese. Beat the oil and add the lemon juice slowly. Add the salt and paprika. Beat 1 minute. Add the cheese. Serve very cold, poured over the asparagus salad. A salad sounds very uninteresting until you put that on it, and I can see now how it would be a pleasure. All right, now let's look at the tapioca. This is different. Strawberry tapioca, 3 tablespoons of granulated tapioca, 4 tablespoons of sugar, 1½ cups of hot water, 1/8 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon vanilla, 1 cup strawberries, and 1/4 cup sugar. Wash and hold the strawberries and cut in halves with a spoon. Add the sugar, mix well, and set in a cold place. Mix the tapioca, sugar, and salt. Add the boiling water slowly. Cook 10 minutes in the upper part of the double boiler. Add the vanilla. When cold, add the strawberries. Serve very cold with plain or whipped cream. Okay, I did have something to say about tapioca. You'll notice our first recipe for the orange tapioca called for powdered tapioca. The strawberry tapioca recipe, however, called for granulated tapioca. So I looked into that and I thought, what is tapioca? Tapioca comes from the cassava root, and I found out that cassava is a dietary staple in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, that over 8 million people rely on it for their diets. Cassava is very high in, the root is very high in carbohydrates and also has minerals in it. The leaves of the cassava are high in protein, 25% protein. So it's a very good plant, and also it's resilient, it's drought tolerant. You can harvest the root for a long period of time, over a long period of time, and it's high yield of carbs, like I said. The danger is that cassava contains cyanide, so you never want to have any raw leaves or root of that plant. But the powdered tapioca has been processed to remove the toxins, and it is a gluten-free product, and it is the washed starch from the cassava root is what that is. So it's used for thickening, and you can also dredge chicken in it before you fry it, and it'll have a nice crisp coating on it. I think I might try that. It is something that does absorb. It has no flavor of its own, and so that's a benefit. In this case, it does cause gelling and thickening. Now, there's something called granulated tapioca that is the instant or minute tapioca, and these are partially cooked already, and they're excellent then for absorbing juices in fruit pies and cobblers, and they're preferred for that use. Now, we have these recipes. The lemon tapioca used the powdered, and the strawberry recipe used the granulated. And then there's other kinds, which you might have heard of. Pearl tapioca, which is small or medium-sized balls, and they make pudding out of that has that fisheye texture, they called it. And it's kind of a texture that either you like it or you can't stand it. Some people don't like the sliminess of it. And then the large pearled tapioca is called boba. And you know that's very popular right now. People are drinking boba tea. And sometimes the boba is dyed to make it colorful. And it's put into what they call bubble teas. And the bubble teas are milk teas with these large pearl tapioca in the bottom of the cup, and then they use a wide straw to drink the tea so that they can suck up those tapioca pearls also as a little gummy, chewy treat in the tea. So now the cassava is a 1-to-1 substitution for flour in baking. So that is another use for it. And I was looking into that a little bit more deeply. And again, it is gluten-free. So that's it for these. We've had 45 minutes, which is extremely long because I am trying to finish the month of May and get to the very end of our book so we can have our overview and move on to a new project. So let's just say goodbye for now and happy homemaking. And maybe you'll think about doing some spring cleaning or making a wildflower bouquet.